Hi, Scotty Sanders here. You know, we're kicking off beginning of the week again, Mondays. And remember what I like to tell you, that Mondays are double Mondays, meaning I feel like you need to start Mondays off with the idea that you get twice as much work done on Mondays than any day of the week. That's how you get off to a great start. And not that you cruise by the end of the week, but you can focus on some other things that may take a little bit more creative time. So I like to call Mondays Double Monday. Hey, I hope you're able to check it out tonight. I appreciate you joining me. Again, this is Scotty Sanders. I'm an international leadership consultant. And what I love to get to do is to help others to lead well. See, my purpose in life is to encourage and to empower others to live, lead, and to finish well. And the whole theme behind these Facebook Live events are to do exactly that, to help you to lead yourself well so that you get a chance to lead others well. So I went back and started tracking all the different Facebook Lives that I've done over the last year, and this is actually episode 34. So thanks for joining episode 34, and my talk for tonight is going to be called Before You Enter the Shark Tank, and I'm going to talk about the 9 lessons you need to have down before you enter the Shark Tank, because it will get bad if you don't. The sharks will get after you big time. And some of you may watch the show Shark Tank. It's probably one of my favorites. I've probably watched 100 episodes, and I learned so much from that. It's just fascinating to me to hear all the pitches and the presentations and all the things associated with that. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight, the 9 lessons that you need to be prepared for before you enter the Shark Tank. But before I do that, I want to give you a quick update on some things related to Quest of the Keys. I'm asked about that all the time. So let me just tell you, this past week, I had a chance to speak at a couple middle schools in the Flower Mound, Texas area, kind of my home court right now. I spoke at 2 different schools, about 500 middle schoolers. It was a great time. They had all read Quest of the Keys, and they really enjoyed the book. And it was so encouraging to see them get it and understand the importance of taking personal responsibility, about making good decisions, about how your attitude can determine almost everything in your life. And for them to repeat those themes was so encouraging to me. So that was awesome. Another thing is that we're actually placing Quest of the Keys in a high school in this area, that they'll be using it for English as their second language. So a number of classes will be using that. So I'm excited about getting people that don't speak English or learning to speak English will be using Quest of the Keys as their book to learn to speak English. Also, an update to our book, Guardians of Light. Some of you remember about a year ago now, my wife Cindy wrote the book, Guardians of Light, which is kind of that, kindergarten, lower elementary. So we're now able to put it in schools because we have curriculum that Cindy has written, and very excited about that. So we're able now to bring that into schools, and we're starting to get it in schools that teachers can use the book and use the curriculum in those lower elementary classes. So that's awesome. And another piece of news, I heard from our Hollywood writers that are working on our Quest of the Keys movie project, and they informed me, I think it was a day or 2 ago, that they will have the first draft of the script to us next week. So super excited. We've kind of worked through the outline and some of the themes based on the book as the main resource, but looking forward to reading the first draft. Again, it's still a process. We hope to have the script completed by the end of the year. So I wanted to give you those updates real quick. So let's go ahead and dive in on episode 34, Before You Enter the Shark Tank, these 9 lessons that you need to know. So you may be asking yourself, well, I don't know if that really applies to me. What would be a Shark Tank? Well, let me tell you some things that I look at for me is like entering a Shark Tank. So I have 2 nonprofits that I lead. So my boards operate a little bit like a Shark Tank for me. I have to be ready for that as I present information and get them to buy in and support the vision of the mission of the organization. It's like a Shark Tank. Also, if I go on a sales presentation, it may be to land a corporate client or another organization I'm working in. So a sales presentation for you, it's like going into the Shark Tank. Or what about a bank loan presentation? You need some capital. You need a line of credit to operate. You need to sell them on you, right, in your organization. So that would be like entering the Shark Tank. Another one could be that you're meeting with a potential investor or a large donor. That would be like entering the Shark Tank. I've had several book projects that I've done. So that was entering the Shark Tank. My movie project was entering the Shark Tank, selling the CEO of a movie company why they should buy into Quest of the Keys as an eventual movie. Those are all type Shark Tanks. And you can probably come up with some more, but those are some probably in the last 12 months or 18 months that I've had to enter into, okay? And again, I don't mind doing that if I know that I'm prepared. So let me talk to you about these 9 lessons that you need to be prepared to answer before you enter the Shark Tank. First lesson is to always make sure, number 1, be passionate. I've always said, and I've heard it said, passion is contagious. And I could just give you example after example of how true that is. That your passion will be contagious to someone else, and they'll pass that on to someone for you. So be passionate. No one's going to buy into you if they don't see you being passionate about whatever project it may be. The second thing is be prepared. Be prepared. You know, shooting from the hip is dangerous because you can end up shooting your foot off if you're not careful. So you need to be prepared. Don't go in there winging it. You need to spend whatever time you need to that you are comfortable and you're prepared and you're confident. If you're not prepared, it will show up quickly when you enter the Shark Tank. Here's a third one, kind of connected to number 2, is know the numbers. You need to know whatever those key metrics are. So be prepared for if it's a board or a sales presentation where they ask you about certain numbers, you need to know what is the cost? You know, what's the return on the investment? What is the payout time? What has been the last 12 months revenue? You know, what's the cost of customer acquisition? I don't know what the numbers would be for you. I've got a lot of numbers that I deal with ongoing. So I want to know the numbers that when an investor or someone that's a potential donor asks something, I have those numbers. And I don't have to have all the answers, but it doesn't need to be that I'm not prepared. Some things you can never prepare enough for, and that's okay, but don't go in there and not prepare for the things that ought to be an automatic. So know the numbers. Number 4, listen and do not get defensive. So if they push back on something or question something, the last thing you need to do is get defensive. You need to hear them out and say, hey, that's a good question. I've not thought about that, versus fighting and defending and arguing with them. You lose when you argue. You lose when you become defensive. You can't do that. And they may not have a legitimate question. You may say, it doesn't make sense. But be very respectful, be very kind, and don't get defensive. When you get defensive, it comes across the wrong way. And here's something too. It's hard to listen if you're doing all the talking. So you need to be careful that you don't do a lot of talking. Rarely have I heard through the years that person did not talk enough. But I hear almost every week about some meeting or some conversation of someone complaining about someone else. They talk too much. And I can assure you, that's been said about me, and I work on that. I don't want that to be said about me. So I've learned to be very judicious in my comments. I would rather have someone say, Scotty, what do you think? Versus me giving my answer to everything. So that's been a learning for me and an ongoing lesson that I work on. So listen and do not be defensive. And then number 5, now listen, this may be a little bit harder to control, but have a good track record. If you go in and you're making a presentation on something and you have no track record to speak of or a bad track record, you may want to take some time to build your track record before you're ready to go into the Shark Tank. All right, you go in there and you don't have a good track record. What are you trying to sell people? What are they buying into? So you may not be ready for the Shark Tank. So get yourself by building, get some successes. I call it get some wins under your belt. Number 6 is be a disciplined communicator. Be a disciplined communicator. And I would just add this, be careful with the curse of knowledge. I have to watch that because I'm not involved in tons of things, but there are 3 or 4 things I'm very involved in, I'm very passionate about. And it could very easily, I could be hit with the curse of knowledge. I know a lot about the subject, this particular company or organization or whatever it may be, and I could go on and on and on about it. And that's where discipline comes in. People don't want to know everything. The curse of knowledge will get you in trouble that you tell them more than they want to know. You get into the weeds when typically they want to hear the 10,000 or even 20,000 feet view, not the on the boots on the ground. So be a disciplined communicator. Number 7, remember that stakeholders buy into people more than they do the product or the service. Remember that stakeholders buy into the people more than the product or the service. So coming across as credible is extremely important. If you don't come across as credible, you're going to lose people. And part of being credible, you need to have a credible story. No falsehoods, no exaggerations, no hyperboles. Shoot straight with people. Be honest. You need to have credibility with that. And then add some authenticity with that. And it never hurts to have some good likability. When people like you, they'll come near wanting to do business with you. And then number 8, get something valuable besides money. Now listen, when you go into the Shark Tank, you may want to get an investor or you may want to get a sale, but sometimes the feedback they give you, the advice they give you can be as valuable as them buying something or investing in your company or organization. Get something in return other than money that's valuable. Their wisdom, their advice, their experience can be very beneficial to you. So even though you may not make the sale, close the deal, what can you gain of value? Get something valuable besides money. If it looks like it's not going to happen on the money side, what else can you gain that would help you down the road? And then the last one, number 9, more sharks are better than one. Okay, and what I mean by that is have a multitude of counselors. You know, one of the things when you watch the Shark Tank, they're willing to take a lesser deal for them, make less money if they can get multiple sharks because they know that more sharks bring more value, more wisdom to the table. So more sharks are better than one. You can never have enough good counselors, good advisors on your team. So those are the 9 lessons that are very important before you enter the Shark Tank. I hope this has been helpful to you. I always like to hear back from people. Maybe you would share what has been the most helpful thing to you, take away maybe out of these 9. Which one of these really spoke to you the most? I'd love to hear that from you. And another way that you can really encourage me and let me know this is helpful to you is when you share it, it says to me, it helped you. You're willing to share that with someone else. Now listen, one of my themes and my goals every week is to make sure that I'm leading well. So I plan to lead well this week. I hope you'll do the same and hope you'll join me next week as I talk about episode 35. I'm going to keep you in suspense for that one. But next week, I think it's actually a part 1 and part 2. But episode 35, join me next Monday. Take care.